Food for Life is about understanding what's really behind the food we eat. With that in mind, let me ask you, have you ever wondered if there's truly a difference between organic vegetables and conventional vegetables? Heath Gamache is going to help us understand the difference. He's an organic vegetable farmer with 12 years experience, and he also teaches organic vegetable farming. Organic vegetables versus conventional vegetables. Today on David Allender's Food for Life. Heath Gamache from Blackberry Meadows Organic Farm is going to help us understand what's really behind organic vegetables. Heath, what does a farm have to do to be organic certified?
First, you have to find an organization that is qualified to perform the inspection and the records review. What they do is they come in on an annual basis and they look at all our records to see what we've planted, where we've sourced all of our materials from, whether that's our potting soil or any fertilizers that we need to use. So they're going to look at all your records. They're going to make sure that everything that you've purchased on your farm is on the list from the USDA. OMRI is the name of the list. And that's the approved methods for growing organically. Next thing they're going to do is they're going to tour your farm and they're going to look at all your fields and see if what you say you're doing is what you're really doing. So they'll look and see if the things you said you had planted are the things you have planted. They're going to look and see the way you're controlling weeds, the way you're controlling insects. They're going to have you fill out an application on an annual basis. And then you pay a fee and you wait for their decision.
And then it comes. When they do this farm tour, are they looking to see if you're rotating your crops also? Is that part of it?
The things that you probably would lose certification for are not necessarily crop rotation or crop selection, but rather if you were to be using petroleum-based fertilizers or if you were using synthetic chemicals that are not on the approved list, that's what you would lose your certification for.
So that's mainly what they're looking for. They really want to make sure that you're only using the items that are on their approved list.
Exactly.
What's the reasoning behind all of these requirements? Why are they so concerned about spraying chemicals or using petroleum-based fertilizers?
When the organic movement got started, a lot of people were very concerned about personal health. They were concerned that the food that they were eating might have residues from either pesticides or herbicides or some synthetic fertilizers that would still be on the food or in the food that they were eating. So they started to ask a lot of questions. At the same time, there was a real concern about soil health. And so as the science was improving to understand what was in and on food and also what was in the soil and the effects that had on the plants, they developed a list of things that they felt were appropriate and safe to put either in the soil or on the plants to control insects or to control weeds, and at the same time not have to worry about that making someone sick or killing off beneficial insects.
How does all of this help the plants?
Well, here on our farm what we've seen is when we are more careful with the soil and with what we add to the soil or apply to the plants are healthier, they produce more nutritious and more flavorful food. And also, in the end, we know that we're actually improving the overall quality of the soil for next year. Because the big problem with most pesticides and herbicides and fungicides is not that they don't work. They do. The problem is they work too well. they don't just get rid of the things that you're worried about. They get rid of everything. So if you take a spoonful of soil and it has millions or billions of microscopic organisms that are all taking nutrients from the soil and making it available to the roots of your plants so that your plants can be strong, so they can grow well, so they can produce lots of fruit. And then you apply a chemical that not only takes care of the one or two funguses you're worried about or the one or two pests you're worried about, but kills off all of those things, then the plants are really struggling because they have to work so much harder to try and extract those nutrients from the soil.
And then don't you have to add even more fertilizer and more chemical because they're struggling?
And that's exactly what you see on a lot of conventional farms.
Heath, you mentioned nutrition a number of times.
Sure.
Are there any studies out there that actually support the claim that organic vegetables can have higher nutrition than conventional vegetables?
Sure. There are a number of studies out that have been done over the years. Say one of the more recent ones was done at Rutgers University. On the whole, organic outperformed conventional.
Let's take a look at the lettuce chart and see what it says about nutrition.
Sure. Well, I'm looking at this. This is from Rutgers again. This is the lettuce, and they are particularly noticing that potassium and iron and manganese are all multiples of times higher per unit in organically grown versus conventionally grown.
So the green bars are the organic vegetables and the red bars are the conventional vegetables.
Correct.
There's a big difference there. How about sugar snap peas? What are they?
Sure.
Does this carry through to other vegetables?
In snap peas, organic vegetables don't just outperform conventional, they leave it in the dust, really. The levels of iron, of copper, of boron, of potassium, sodium, magnesium, all these things, calcium, are just through the roof in comparison to conventional.
How about cabbage?
I'm taking a look at the cabbage statistics, and it looks like for cabbage, again, across the board, calcium and magnesium and potassium are all 3 to 4 times higher. Iron is 3 to 4 times higher, and then some of the others like copper and boron and manganese are also a couple of times higher than in conventional. If you're looking for locally grown, organically grown, and really healthy food, you can find it in lettuce, yeah, in cabbage, in kale, in all of those things, and especially if it's organically grown versus conventional.
Heath, these studies show really high nutrition levels. Is this always the case with organic vegetables?
I'd say, to be fair, it's not always the case. From one farm to the next, from one region of soil to the next, you might see variations in the amount of nutrition in any given crop. Certainly there are foods available from conventional farms that are healthy foods. I'm not saying they aren't. I'm saying that there are certainly a lot of advantages to using organic growing methods. And in a lot of cases, your nutrition is going to be exceptional and of vastly higher quantities in an organically grown situation.
So, but you do know that if it is an organic certified vegetable, they are following the processes that you talked about.
That's the most important part, I think, about growing organically and why we have decided to be organic farmers for the last number of years. Not just because we want to provide high quality food, nutritional food to our consumers, but also because we know it's good for the ecosystem. And I think that's why people buy organic food too, because they want to eat healthy, but they also want to know that the choice they're making is healthy for the environment.
This all sounds great. It tastes better, it's more nutritious, but it costs a lot more money. Sometimes it's even double the price. What causes organic vegetables to be so much more expensive than conventional?
First, you have to pay the inspectors. You have to pay for your certification, and so there's costs involved there that add to the price of the vegetables that are grown. Also, you have to think about the fact that your choices for things you can use on your fields when you do have say, an insect outbreak or a fungus problem, your choices are very limited, and those products that you are allowed to use can be quite expensive. Another thing is that a lot of the work that you do to control weeds or to control pests, you do by hand. So there's a lot of labor involved, and of course labor costs money. But I think probably the most important reason why organic tends to cost a little more is because you have to plan for losses. Because you're limited in the safe things that you're allowed to do with your soil, with your land, and with your crops, you have to use more space to plant more crops because you know you're going to lose more than a conventional farm will.
Thanks. We've come up into the field at Blackberry Meadows Farm to take a look at soil, and Heath is going to explain for us the difference between soil and dirt. So let's get some of this soil here and get an idea what we're really looking at.
Nice.
So Heath, what are we looking at here?
Well, first thing you got to remember is soil is a living thing. So when you take some good soil, you're going to look for organic matter. So this is decomposing straw that we use for mulch, plus roots from plants from last year and some from this year. There's some small insects in here. I
saw some ants running around.
Yeah, a couple ants.
And you can see wormholes.
Yep, there's worm castings here and along through here. So soil is composed of a lot of things. You've got the mineral component, like sand and silt and clay, maybe some rocks, which is actually the majority of soil. And then you've got the organic component, the decomposing material, which is really where all these plants that we grow return to. So anything we do to make this farm better really has to make this better. It's not about picking the best breed of plant or using the right kind of spray. It's about how do you keep the soil as absolutely healthy as it can be. And you do that by, one, using organic material like straw or compost, adding it back into the soil every year, and also by not using any chemicals that would prevent the billions of microbes that are in this handful of soil. Has billions of microbes.
Well, speaking of the chemicals, maybe we can go take a look at the things that are permitted to be put on the plants and on the soil.
Sure.
So we can get a feel for how they work.
I'd love to do that.
Thanks. Heath, you're talking about chemicals that are approved by the USDA for use on your farm.
Right.
What do we have here?
Well, I have about a half a dozen things here, and we don't really use a whole lot. These two, this one in the box is a powder. It's just powderized seaweed.
What does it do?
That's for soil fertility. It adds a little bit more organic material for the plants to use.
Okay.
And then this is also from the same company. This is called liquid fish. So these are both products that we use when we're transplanting our young plants. So it gives them a little boost for that early growth and root development.
Okay. So these are a natural organic fertilizer.
Right,
They're
exactly.
within that criteria. Okay.
And these are both OMRI listed. So these are on the list from the USDA as approved
See that?
for, yeah, right there, for use in organic farming.
Okay.
These other four are the four things that we use on occasion when our manual methods don't control insect pests. Safer soap is a type of soap that is approved and you use for some small beetles like flea beetles. Okay. And this is mixed with water and then just manually sprayed on the plants.
So that safer soap is for keeping bugs off.
Right, as is this one. This is a particular one. This is for Colorado potato beetles.
What is this one here?
Dipel is a type of what for short is called BT. It stands for Bacillus thuringiensis, which is a bacteria that interrupts the digestive processes of larvae. So if we start getting moths laying eggs on our cabbage, and we start to notice the little caterpillars doing a lot of damage, then we can mix this
This
powder
fixes
with
it.
some water, and you apply it to the leaves, and when the larva eats it, it prevents it from digesting, so it will actually interrupt the digestive system.
So it kills these larvae and
Right. So
saves them from eating holes in all the cabbage and
Right.
so on. Now how about this one?
Lastly is pyganic, and this is derived from flowers, and this one is sort of our last line of defense. We try to do the minimal amount first, but if we really need something that's organic approved but nothing else seems to be working, we'll try pyganic.
Heath, thanks a lot for all this information. I think this
pleasure.
is really going to help people decide whether or not they want to buy organic vegetables.
Sure.
We've made it from Blackberry Meadows Farm to the Culinary Institute kitchen. When it comes to salad dressings, if we want an oil and vinegar-based dressing, many of us make our own, but if we want a creamy dressing, most of us tend to reach for a bottle. And I bet if I open most of your refrigerators, there will be a number of half-full bottles on the door, probably long past their expiration date too. To help you free yourself from the bottle, I'm going to show you how to make buttermilk ranch dressing in less than 5 minutes from mayonnaise, buttermilk, and fresh herbs. In those same 5 minutes, we're going to make the mayonnaise and the buttermilk. Let's start by making the buttermilk. It's a very complex process, only to be attempted by a professional chef. First off, we start off with a clean jar, and I like peanuts, so I tend to use these peanut jars for a lot of things. And the first thing we will do is take the lids off. You start off with a little bit of buttermilk. So we're going to pour about a 1/4 cup to a 1/2 cup of buttermilk into the jar. That should do. The next thing you do is you want to add some milk. I happen to like buttermilk made with full-fat organic milk, so I'm using vitamin D milk. And there we go, we're filling the jar up, but don't fill it up all the way. Give yourself a little bit of shaking room. The next thing you want to do is put a little bit of salt. I'm using sea salt because buttermilk has a little bit of salt in it. Now here comes for the very complicated part that only is to be attempted by a master chef. There it is. This is buttermilk. All you need to do is set this on the table in a kitchen, say maybe around 70 degrees, and it'll be done in 12 to 18 hours. Now that we've got the buttermilk made, let's make the mayonnaise. Okay, we're going to start off with a fresh egg. We need an egg yolk, so I'm going to separate the egg. There we go. Very carefully, I don't want to end up with yolk and whites all mixed together here. There we go. So we put the egg yolk in the mixer. Set this off to the side. The next thing we do is we put a little bit of paprika, about a 1/2 teaspoon or a little less depending on what you like is good. Got a little on the top. Then we want a tablespoon of white vinegar. Now I'm using a regular organic egg. Some people are concerned about pathogens with regular eggs. Some people believe that the vinegar kills the pathogens off. If you're concerned about that, just simply use a pasteurized egg and I'm sure you'll be fine. So the next thing we're going to do is mix this up. There we go. Got that mixed. Now as you can see here, this is very thin, it's runny, it's not yet mayonnaise. The next ingredient is oil, and we're going to use some canola oil, just your standard canola oil. So I'm going to add, and one of the tricks is you got to add it slowly, a little bit at a time, put a little bit of oil in. I'm going to do a little bit of mixing. A little bit of oil. little bit more oil. And it's beginning to get thick. See, as we add this oil, it emulsifies. A little bit more. There, now it's getting thick. A little bit more, and we're going to have mayonnaise here. Hear that? There we go. Now you can see here that it's thick. It's not moving around inside. We have some mayonnaise. So let's add the buttermilk for our buttermilk ranch dressing. I'm putting about a half a cup in there. Nice thick homemade buttermilk. And we're going to put some fresh herbs in. I like chives. Don't have to do too much to them, just sort of break them up because the chopper handles all that. A little bit of fresh oregano. A few sage leaves. And some fresh tarragon. I picked all this in the yard. I think it's great to have fresh herbs growing in the yard. And we're going to put the final spicy element, a piece of clove of garlic. And a little bit of salt. There we go. It's finished. Buttermilk ranch dressing. It's ready to go for a salad. This is so good. You can taste all of the herbs. You can taste the life of the garden in this ranch dressing. Chef Gene Evans from the West Virginia Northern Community College Culinary Institute is here, and he's going to show us the best way to make a salad from the greens from Blackberry Meadows Farm so that we can use this wonderful dressing. Chef Gene, what do you think?
Well, the grains that we're working with are all kind of bitter. So what we have to do is kind of create a little bit of balance with everything.
Okay.
There's some dandelion greens in here, some red kale, some arugula, and dill. All of those have some spicier kind of
Spicier notes to them.
spicier notes that are also a lot bitter. So between the dressing and these sour cherries and a little bit of pine nuts, we strike a little balance with the salad itself.
So what you're recommending with a salad, whether it's organic greens or whatever, you need to have a balance between bitterness and sweetness.
Yeah, and as long as we're getting that balance, we let them play off of each other, and one doesn't overpower the other.
Excellent.
So we're just going to put a few of these in. We'll save a couple back for garnish.
Those are dried cherries?
Those are sun-dried cherries.
Sun-dried cherries.
And then we have a little bit of pine nuts, and then I'm going to steal some of your dressing here.
Oh, that's wonderful.
And then we're just going to lightly toss this.
Now, there's a little bit of tarragon in there, as you know, so that adds a little bit of nuttiness and sweetness to it also.
Yeah, absolutely. It has that nice flavor of that kind of anisey sweetness that will play off of some of the sun-dried cherries on us. And then all we got to do is transport it into a nice serving bowl.
That dill looks absolutely beautiful in there. Look at that.
And then we just top it off with a few of our others for garnish.
Very good.
Same with the pine nuts. And that creates a nice looking little salad for you.
I got to taste a piece of it. Can I just grab a piece?
Absolutely.
Oh, thanks. I'm going to taste a piece of the red kale. The nuttiness of the pine nuts, the cherries, the creamy dressing, it all just blends together perfectly.
Right.
Chef Gene, thanks so much.
You're welcome.
Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Let's take a look at our options for ranch dressing. This is a conventional dressing that's very affordable at 10 cents per serving. It contains soybean oil, water, sugar, vinegar, egg yolk, contains salt, sodium lactate, whey, buttermilk, onions, xanthan gum, citric acid, phosphoric acid, garlic, polysorbate 60, parsley, spice, natural flavor, disodium
inosate, I can't pronounce that, but I'm going to do my best, disodium guanylate, vitamin E, and natamycin, which it says is a natural preservative. So it does have some chemicals and it's not organic, but it is only 10 cents per serving. Here's another option that we have. This is an organic dressing. It's a bottled organic dressing, and it's 43 cents per serving, so it's significantly more money. However, when you read the ingredients, there's really nothing on here that I can't pronounce. There's buttermilk, soy oil, apple cider vinegar, sour cream, there's water, sea salt, onions, whole egg, there's xanthan gum, chives, parsley, and shallots. So this has all natural organic ingredients, but it is 43 cents per serving. Now here we have the dressing that we made right here, and it's, you saw the ingredients, it's made with mostly organic ingredients. This dressing only costs about 11 cents per serving. Now if you use some conventional eggs, it goes down to around 5 cents per serving. It's up to you to choose which is right for you. The difference is that we now know how to make ranch dressing on our own. And thanks to Heath Gomache at Blackberry Meadows Farm, we know more about the processes behind organic vegetables. Based on this, you get to decide if you believe organics have higher nutrition and are better for your health. But we're not finished yet. There's a test. Take a deep breath. If you're feeling test anxiety, we all pass this test. Go to foodforlife.tv. Click on Contact and place the answer to the question for the Organic Vegetable Show in the contact field and click Send. I will reply with a PDF of the recipes for today and some additional salad and salad dressing recipes from the West Virginia Northern Community College Culinary School. I'm David Allender, and this is David Allender's Food for Life.